Welcome to Dev Talks. This is our fourth episode, and today we have Salim John Khan from Ottawa to talk about the Sadaqa Food Bank. Mr. Khan, can you explain the initiation of this project? How and when did it begin?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the time to really speak with you spreading the good word around, and getting the pulse in Ottawa of how community lives here. And although we are the national capital region, and everybody thinks that we could be a rich region, but it is not. There is so much poverty, food insecurity in this area as well. And recently, we have seen quite a bit of growth. But taking you back, I think very important to know how it all came about. Raison d'etre is basically that we started with a group of few people that we used to get together for our prayers. I'm a public servant by profession with the federal government, and we had one musalla in downtown area where we used to go pray for our Zuhr prayers or Asr or Maghrib if we stayed there until Maghrib. So that was our frequent sort of place to go there for Jummah prayers as well. And so when we were coming out of that place, people look at this kind of group where, as a Muslim, we would get together and we congregate, outside as well. So it's like a more social sort of way of, integrating and seeing each other, greeting each other. So obviously we were right in the core of the downtown Ottawa. And there's a street there that is frequently visited by tourists, and shoppers and everybody. So they will look at that, that little group, when they come out of Jummah prayer, for example, wow, they're dressed up, of course, office clothes. And so some people on that street, they were panhandlers, like, they're poor, they're sleeping on the street maybe, or sitting in the corner, have empty coffee mug, and asking for donations, something like that. So they started coming to that gathering. When we were all outside, they will come and stay there a little bit distance, and say, could you give us some, a quarter or a dollar? I want to buy coffee, I want to buy this. So anyway, we started this very grassroots level, sort of getting the donations from the friends that we were there. So we're asking them, could you give me $5? Could you give me $10? And we'll put together this money and we will distribute it, to whoever comes over there as a cash donation. Okay. So later on, it happened that, Muslims also learned about it, that, we are giving out a little bit of the donation here and there. And their specific need was that they were looking for some halal food. So this, by the way, goes back to 2006 and 7. Okay, that is the time you go back, where we did not have too much the concept of halal foods available. We didn't have any shawarma, we didn't have any halal restaurants. So imagine, their Muslim families were basically struggling, newcomers especially, where to get the halal food. So they were approaching that small little place that we had over there in the downtown area and said, okay, yeah, it's good for you to give us money, but where to buy halal chicken, for example, or halal bread. Because at that time, bread was not even halal because they used to put something in it that bread was not halal. So anyway, this small group of people, including myself, we started, it's basically funding collection. And later on, it grew in a way that, we started to look for a small space, warehouse, where we could, have some sort of food stored and people come and get it. So this goes back to 2006 and 7. And since then, it has evolved tremendously. We are used to have 5 or 7 clients per month. Now we have almost 450 to 500 clients per month. So this is basically was the need for the community to have something that is called halal food, or halal food bank. And I think timing was good, you see, in a way that, we could start something to help Muslim families and also to direct them. You see, we started collecting the data, you see, who sells the halal. At that time, not too many halal shops were there. In fact, we were looking for even kosher markets. So that was because under our Islamic jurisprudence, we can eat kosher meat or kosher chicken. So we even gathered that sort of data in order for us to help people to go and where to find these halal food.
Okay, and just a follow-up from that, nowadays, do you serve non-Muslims as well? What's the difference between how many Muslim visitors come versus non-Muslim visitors?
Absolutely. We serve everybody who comes to Sadaqa Food Bank, Muslims, non-Muslims, white, black, brown, anybody you name it. So our food bank is called the Emergency Food Bank. We are the only food bank in Ottawa that is open on Saturdays and Sundays during the weekend. So obviously all the other food banks are closed and we are the only one. We're halal, plus we're open in the weekend. So imagine, everybody flocks to Sadaqa Food Bank because of the reason they are open in the weekend. And we serve them without any distinction, as I mentioned, without any demographic issues for them, which country they come from. We do ask which country they come from because this is needed for the data point of view. But no such thing that you say, okay, because you're from such and such country, we're not going to serve you. No, that's not the case.
Could you please tell us something about how initially, when you created this food bank, you must have had requirements by the Canadian government to be accountable for all this activity? How did you register as an organization? How did you proceed?
Excellent question. Excellent question. This is in compliance with the charitable status, you see, of the Islamic organizations in Canada. We, as a small food bank, obviously did not have the charitable status. We did not even have any resources, basically, to put together some sort of documentation because it was just, a random group. You see, we come in lunchtime in the prayer time and we just disappear after that. And so it became so big, you see, that then people were giving us donations outside of the community, out of that group, you see, which we formed. So people started giving us a donation, and obviously their expectation was that we were a registered charity, and they were asking for if there is any tax deduction receipt for those donations. We did not have. We were not registered with CRA or any other government agency. We were just, as I said, your individuals. This really brought, focus on our future planning. You see what to do. If this continues to grow, demand continues to grow, and then we have more donations are coming in, people are becoming aware now. There's so much generous community here in Ottawa. So we thought, what to do now, because it takes quite a bit of effort and resources to go to CRA and put your mission, put your statement of objectives in order for you to get this charitable status. You have to have board of directors. You have to have, the hierarchy of the organization, which we never had. We were just all basically, the volunteers. So we thought, you see, it would not really be, prudent for us to create that kind of things, and then we have our own jobs and we don't really have people who could work in the weekends. So let's find somebody who could perhaps put their hand on our head, basically, so to speak, and to that we come under their umbrella. And that's what we started looking within Ottawa area. So unfortunately, at that time, there was only one organization, and it was only international based programs, not domestic programs. You see, and this, our food bank, as a domestic program. We approached quite a few mosques, and they also declined because their constitution our mission did not include supporting the operation of Sadaqa Food Bank. So eventually what we did, we went out of Ottawa and then said, okay, let's look maybe bigger cities. And there we had one organization which is very prominent and famous for domestic programs as well as the international. So that is called ICNA Relief Canada. So we approached them and said, this is how the small organization of Sadaqa Food Bank is growing, and demand from donors is they would like to have the receipts, but we don't have. And what kind of terms or conditions can we come to agree with you if you would like us to be under your umbrella? Okay. So this is the negotiation part. You see that we went with them. You see, finally they agreed that yeah, there are certain conditions. They will allow us to issue receipts, to donors.
Similar to that, is that why you collect so much data? Because you have to relate it to ICNA or to the CRA?
The data is now let's go a little bit more backward. You see, backward in a sense that the donation that we were getting from our donors, local donors, were not really meeting the needs of the demand that we had from clients. We then looked around and we approached Ottawa Food Bank, which is the principal organization in Ottawa, under which there are 147 other food banks. And their food drives all year long, you see, and the municipal and the provincial and the businesses, they all support Ottawa Food Bank because they know there's so much food insecurity and poverty in Ottawa, and Ottawa Food Bank is a champion, and they have this mission, you see, to collect food donations. So we approached them and said, okay, we would like to apply for it and become your member, so that we can also get food, you see, once a week. So we had signed an agreement, MOU, that we sign with them every year. And since 2007 and 8, we have been signing this MOU with the Ottawa Food Bank. So Ottawa Food Bank also had those conditions. They said, okay, look, because they have to report back to municipal governments, provincial governments, and the National Food Bank the data about the clients. Who are these clients coming to food banks? What is their family composition? What is their background in terms of education? How much they are making money, if there's any? Are they educated? Degrees are also capturing everything, you see, about the client. Now, this is not needed by ICNA relief. ICNA has nothing to do with that. It is needed by Ottawa Food Bank, and they are the one who deployed link to feed database, which is supported by provincial and the municipal government to track the data. Now, there's no exposure of individual data to anybody, like individual names or family names or no, those are the most protected information. Other than we at Food Bank, nobody else sees that. Okay, so this is our principal responsibility, to protect the integrity and the identity of anyone who comes to visit us. But for Ottawa Food Bank, it is necessary because they have to go back and to show how many clients, how many needy families collectively in the National Capital Region we are helping every week. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it does. My next question for you is approximately how much food are you receiving? Where is it coming from? And can you also describe the role of your sponsors?
Well, how much food we receive, it's the food that we distribute, almost 30% of the food that comes from Ottawa Food Bank, 30%. So rest of the food is basically donated by individuals. We have drop-off locations at major grocery stores, at the mosques, at Islamic schools like Abrar School or Jami Umar Tarbiyah School. And so we have all these bins over there. And they run campaign, once in a while. Or if people are visiting grocery store, they buy, for example, if they buy one bag of rice, they will buy one for themselves or one for Sadaqa Food Bank, and they put in that bin. So I have a volunteer that goes around. I have 28 drop-off points we have in Arwa, 28. And so we have an individual that goes to these drop-off locations every day. Not all of them, but one location per day, basically, or three locations per day. And he will go and collect that food, pick up food from those bins, empty bins. But sometimes they will call us that, okay, bin is full, please come and get it. So those are the number 2 donors. Number 3 are the dedicated donors, which give us, for example, some mosques, without naming names, give us, $1,000 worth of food every month. We basically request them. I send them a list what I need in that particular week, because things go up and down, low and high. So I send them a request to see that, okay, for next week, this is what I require. This is what I need. I need, huge, big jugs of oil, maybe 40 kg of flour or 40 kg of rice. So this is what I request to them. And this is the third source of our donors. So just to give you an example of our quarterly report that we have submitted, to ICNA Relief, because every quarter we have to send them a report. So we have served in 3 months over 1,111 family that we served in 3 months. Okay, and the value of that food that we use, the price index that we have from Stats Canada, the value of that food was $279,000 in 3 months.
Okay.
Now you have to keep in mind that we had in the month of March, a portion of Ramadan also started. So there was a high demand, and more food was needed, more food was purchased or donated. So this food, when I say that amount, this is all the donors that they have been supplying us, the food. We don't have really, at Sadaqa Food Bank, we don't have any cash balance. We don't have our own bank account. We don't have it because we are aligned with the ICNA Relief. So everything that we get in terms of donation in checks or donation in cash, it all goes to ICNA Relief Canada bank account. So this is the routine. Every week, we have so much demand. You see that, I really am thankful to the donors. You see that they can make us survive.
So does ICNA also provide you any support for carrying out this operation?
They don't really, as I mentioned in the beginning, our relationship, is in a way that, they will have a certain responsibility. For example, the leasing costs, they will bear that leasing costs. The warehouse that we have, it is leased. We don't own that place, so utility costs, they pay for it. Other than that, anything that we deposit into ICNA Relief Canada bank account, we don't get it because they have the central part. All food banks, because they have quite a few nationally, and they will just look at those and pay the rent for each location. Now, we do have one individual part-time basis that goes and collects food from those bins I mentioned before. So that is basically minimum wage type of person. And I must add that, when there is Eid al-Adha time, anybody who donates for Sadaqa Food Bank, a goat or lamb or whatever, the money equal to that is given to Sadaqa Food Bank so that we could get and distribute the meat here. So other than
Okay.
that, there's no other support from Economic Relief Canada.
And all the people who work there are volunteers, except the one you have told.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As it started, it's a volunteer-based organization from the very beginning. It continues to be like that, except one just little help you see that comes along from Economic Relief. You see that as part-time, basically. That we need somebody to really go and pick up food that is in the bins.
Okay, my next question is about the eligibility requirements. I know we discussed this just a little bit before, but for example, someone does not bring an ID for every family member and they claim to have 4 people in their family. Would you let them take food home that day? Um, and why do you need a proof of address, particularly? For example, if you have someone who is homeless come by and ask for food, how would they get access to it?
Very important question. Why we ask this question, because I mentioned we have Outdoor Food Bank database that requires us to capture some information in terms of the family composition, because it gives us, the idea how much food to give each family. So there could be 1 in family or 10 in family. So we have to have that information in our database to determine if there's babies, they require baby food. If they have a need for diapers, then so that important information helps us to stock up things, because client will come once every month. So that if they received something this weekend, after a month after they will come, they will be asking for the same thing. They will need baby food, they will require some baby wipes or diapers and so forth. So we do not refuse anybody. As there's I always tell people in the Surah Duha, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. We cannot refuse, and this is our Muslim duty. Anybody who knocks on your door, I'm hungry, I need something, they will never go back without food. Okay, so identity card is very important for us, again, to determine the age, to also the location, because this is required by city of Ottawa. And it's a demographic, basically, study that they take, which area there is more poverty. Okay, because they go by the postal code, for example. Okay, so we have the addresses and the postal codes, and with that, city of Ottawa will look at that, and then to see what could be done there. There are housing crisis, there is food insecurity, there's security issues, there are family breakup issues. There are so many issues that we do not capture. We don't want to, but I mean, based on the postal code, they will have overall picture that what is happening in that neighborhood. So it is part of the data collection that is done by Outdoor Food Bank, and as I mentioned, it is very secure and it is the most protected information that one could have. So I don't know whether I answered your question. It's a long question, but if you put up again, I'll be very happy to explain further.
No, I believe it did. Just the second part of the question, for example, with homeless people who don't have addresses,
Yes.
maybe who don't have proper ID,
Yes.
how would they be treated here?
Yeah, absolutely. So what, on our website, people usually these days, they're using the social media website, basically, for example, to see what is required for new registrations. So we tell them to, when you come, bring photo ID for each and every one of the family members, proof of address, and income if there is any. Okay, if there is no income, we still register them. We will just enter there is no income. But if there is an income, Ontario Works, for example, welfare, or if there is a ODSP, which is people who are on disability, or child tax benefit, or part-time employment, or there's so many sources of income that we collect basically for the benefit of the Ontario government and also the municipal government. As I said, we don't have any use for that information, but it is the database that collects. If people don't have the income, no question, no problem, we give them food. But we need to know, we have seen quite a few examples that people will bring in something on the cell phone, okay? Okay, I have 10 people in the cell phone, they will show me those are the one that, but for us, it's very difficult, taking that as a information to record or to put it in the link to feed database. So people bring in some maybe other families' kids. We like to say that, okay, you bring your own families, not your next door neighbor's families. Okay, they can register at their own. We can register you, and any adult, that becomes, let's say we give them 25 years. If they are still living with the parents, we need to know, are they working or the students? If they're students, that's fine. But if they're working, then we ask them to register separately, individually. So that, they will benefit more than being part of the family. Because, let's say it's a Ramadan project time, every registered client will get, the food hamper. So if that family is 25-year-olds, 2 or 3 people within that family, and so only register only for one family, they will get only one hamper. But if they register them separately, then everybody will get the hamper. So
I think Manur also wanted to ask how you help the homeless people. They come for food.
Yeah, exactly. Homeless people, mostly the people who come from overseas, for example, let's start with that. The majority of the clients that we serve are those who come from conflict-ridden countries or areas in the world. We know where they are. And when they arrive here, they have certain sponsorships or certain support, from the government. So when they land, you see, they are put into shelter homes or some hotels and motels, wherever, and they're given some initial funding, resettlement, allows. So we deal with that, you see, in an appropriate way, proper way. There's no issue with those. However, as I mentioned in the very, very beginning, we have too many people who sleep on the road or on the street. And when they call us that, okay, because we are the only emergency food bank open in the weekend, while we don't have any food, okay, what should we do? We want to, well, in that case, we tell them, please come. Even if you don't have any ID, we will give you food when you come to visit us. Okay, and remind them this once a month, and also remind them that next time, if you find a proper your residential address, feel free, to bring it, so that we can update your information. So absolutely, homelessness is the fact here in this capital region here, and we are there as much as we can help them every weekend when they visit us.
I have a technical question here because you did mention that a lot of the clients are people who are coming from overseas, from conflict areas. Do you only accept Canadian ID, or for example, would you accept like ID from someone from a different country? Or how does that work? Like, is it just particularly Canadian ID, or like could it be a foreign country's ID? Yeah.
Absolutely. Part of the database requirement is, you take ID, any ID that they have. They could have immigration paper. They could have a travel paper, as long as there's a name there. And they could have also the Canadian citizenship card. A passport is taken as well. OHIP, which is a health card, you can take that whether it's from Quebec or from Ontario or from any other region, as long as they show their picture. But it is important that address, we have to have address where they're located. Where we have some clients that come in from other provinces, but they still carry, their provincial cards, not here. We allow them that, as long as they tell us where they're living. And if they show us the ID card, you see, which is from province of, for example, Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Alberta, that's okay. That doesn't matter. It's just as long as we have something that shows their photo ID, and where they live. Income is not really important at all. So yeah, that is the way that we do it.
Okay,
Okay.
that was really insightful. On the website, it mentions that you are seeing an increase in clients, and you've mentioned this right in the early beginning of the interview. How urgent is the issue of food insecurity in in the capital? And what do you believe is the cause of this?
Yeah, it's really the question. It's everybody talks about in Ottawa these days because of the food insecurity, high cost of food, and COVID impacted. You see, families here quite a bit. People lost their jobs, and the people are so much in debt here. So it is not just one reason that people coming to Sadaqa Food Bank. There are people, although there are some cases I have seen people making quite a high income, making $6, $7, $8,000 a month. They're still coming to Sadaqa Food Bank. Obviously, they are going through some tough times, and this is kind of a high sort of inflation time that they are faced with so much debt, perhaps. So that is very important that we take that into consideration. Why is poverty so much increasing in the nation's capital region? And those are the region people lost their jobs. As we know, people went on some special allowance from the federal government, and once that was over, it was very difficult for them to find and go back to job. And then, of course, it's a very important thing that we have to keep in mind: the family breakups. There are single moms, small little kids. You see, they are dependent on their mom. Mom cannot work. There are some language barriers, with the majority of our clients. Okay, they can't even find a job. So that is really critical, you see, for the community, especially for us as a Muslim community, to be there, whether they're Muslims or non-Muslims. They're going through tough times, and whatever we can do in our power, that's what we're doing for them. Okay, and I think it is we actually have some points, you see, that we take into consideration in the database. What is the reason people are visiting? You see, there some people have a high cost of rental. The rental has all of a sudden increased. Utility bills. Somebody just sent me email the other day that they are going to cut off their gas meter because he doesn't have money to pay for the gas. Okay, so there are so many factors in this community that people are struggling, okay, to really put just the basic thing, food on the table for their children. And those are the various reasons. Some people are in shelter. We have here a shelter house, a very prominent Muslim Skina house. So there are lots of clients, you see, our own Muslim sisters, which are being basically housed there to protect them because of the social issues that they are faced with. So obviously, they need some support, and that's what we try to help them. Okay, so there's so many reasons, why there is food insecurity here. And family breaks up. It really breaks my heart to really talk about that, because this is the reality here. This is the reality. Okay, in our communities, our Muslim communities, and if we don't help them, where else they're going to go because of the halal considerations, and obviously some sister that they need to be protected, you see, from all these things. So it is so many factors, okay, that really are putting people in a position where they must reach out to Sadaqa Food Bank for any help they can get, whether it is clothing, whether it is shoes, whether it is other programs. Because we don't just have food there, but we also provide some other support as well. So because of these needs, because of the poverty here, that's what we try to do our best what we can.
I'm just interested to know of this family breakups in Muslim communities. Um, are you talking about people who are separated because some of their family is left in their like home country and then they move here out of, perhaps coming as refugees, they're split up, or is it some other reasons? Have you had
Yeah,
any
yeah,
interest in
no,
that?
I hear them all. You see, basically, it's incredible stress that families go through here. When they arrive here, they don't know the environment, they don't know people here, they don't speak their languages, and some of them, when they were in refugee camps, they have left them in trauma. They can't think straight. So when you are cocooned in a bedroom or in small one rooms or a place where you have 4 or 5 children and you have a man and a wife, and my man has been mishandled back in refugee camp, he has a mental scar, he has a mental illness, because this is what is the cause that you see. Majority of the families is mental illness. It has come to the point, it's a boiling point for them what to do, whether in other words, they run out of the patience among each other. So this is, and on top of that, when kids are crying or they have no food at home, breakups happen, because although we say sabr and patience in our religion is the most important, most sort of principle that we should all have. But imagine when these people are put into these kind of conditions. They lived, the hot and cold, camps. They were bombarded on top and the sides. When they come here, some of them are really mentally disabled. They come here, but they are really not. And I have clients who have been coming to food bank since 10 years now, 10, 11, 12 years. Now, the objective of our food bank is only to help them, because that's what we do, emergency food bank. So that, we help you for a little bit, and then you stand on your feet and try to support your own family. What I was thinking, but giving you the answer about the food insecurity, why people are approaching Sadaqa Food Bank, and some of those reasons, and also why there is family breakups, you see, why there are single moms, more single moms than single dads within our community. I'm not talking about, even there this divide is in non-Muslims too, because we deal with the Muslims more often than non-Muslims. So based on that, we can conclude basically that there is issue of mental illness.
Let me ask you one more thing here.
Yes.
Like you're talking about mental illness, you're talking about the language barrier,
Yes.
you're talking about unemployment.
Yeah.
Do you provide any sort of counseling to these people or refer them to organizations where they can go and seek help, for example, in terms of counseling or learning the language or finding a job?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. We are member of Child Aid Society #1. We are connected with all the community organizations. Child Aid Society, actually, I've been working with them to prepare some sort of guidelines, for Muslim families. If there's a conflict, you see, and then the Child Aid Society gets involved, what are the consequences of that? Not many people know about it, so we have been discussing that, what is the best way to educate, especially the Muslim leaders in the community, that could perhaps transmit their legal responsibilities, to the community. So in terms of mental illness, yes, we have within our own community, there are some ladies, who are psychiatrists, who are psychologists, and the community center is basically cooperating with us. Whenever we have food drive, they also help us, to food drive. And whenever the issue of that nature, first of all, I must clarify here, okay? We don't want to do anything without clients' permission, consent, okay? I'm not Child Aid Society that I just pick up phone and say, okay, let's go and do this and that. It is with the consent of the client. I have a little bit of a chat with them. I will ask them, what can we do for you? Based on what you're telling me, the issue that your family is going through, I can offer you certain resources. For example, if there's a language issue, language barrier, we have translators, or we can even send you to school to learn English. Let's say if you have not been able to do that, right? So language and if there's mental illness or some other issues, I must say one example I want to give you. There was, and it happens in our community, in our society, it happens. When they come from other countries, women have lost their husbands, because they were, in the war. Okay, and they come here, and they come with their parents, you see, and they had 2 or 3 children from previous husband who passed away, died. So when they come here, obviously, for older parents to look after them is very hard. So within that community, then they find somebody, you see, to marry. The one woman, she said, my father found some person from the same country, same language background, and he asked somebody to do a nikah within the house. Okay, without any registration, without any, there are some principles, right? If you live in, in any province, there are some marriage.
Legal.
Yeah. So later on, she continued to come to food bank, and one day she started crying. I said, what happened? She said, because my husband, he beats up my children, and I'm trying to seek a divorce and so on. I don't want to make story too long here, but the fact is that they do something out of the civil rules and regulations, and the other person who they get married is not done proper Islamic way. Now, if she wants to get a divorce, she can't go to court to get a divorce because that's not even registered. So what she should do? Okay, so in a way, she is stuck with the situation, without any proper paper that she is married, but Islamically, in eyes of her parents, she is married. And if that man, he in and out, he comes sometime, he comes, sometimes he doesn't show up. Anyway, there are lots of problems like that in the society here. Okay, so again, we do make referral subject to their approval, subject to their consent, and there are professionals out there that they can help them.
That was really heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah.
And my next question was going to be if there are particular challenges the food banks is facing. Obviously, I think one of the huge challenges is the type of clients that we are, getting, and their stories. And I think that would be a big challenge to deal with as a food bank. But are there other perhaps logistical challenges that Sadaqa Food Bank is dealing with right now or expects to deal with in the future?
Volunteering-based organizations, they are always looking for volunteers. That's my one message that I give to everybody. You see, that we can't do it alone. Certainly we can't. And we have been doing it, alhamdulillah, with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have been doing it. But, I will continue to preach that, please, if you have somebody that could volunteer with us, please send them. This is one of the challenges. In terms of, food, as I mentioned, alhamdulillah, we have such a generous community here in Ottawa, very well to do with the Muslim organizations, with the mosques, here. Mashallah, we just concluded our month of Ramadan. The hamper that we distributed, almost 450 families, I should say, not people, 450 families, and that tremendous food, you see, that came in. People are bringing in, for example, 40 bags of basmati rice of 40 kg each. Okay, I still have them. You might have seen them yesterday.
Yeah.
And meat. We have freezers full of meat, and we had a chicken that was part of the hamper program. We distributed that, and alhamdulillah, I think generosity of people allowed us to do that. We would not have been able to do that, with the Ottawa Food Bank and Costco that gives us some support as well. So challenges are there. Of course, we wish we would have more employees there. I could really do with the 1 or 2 employees that I have lots of accounting responsibilities, financial responsibilities, volunteer recruitment responsibilities, public relations responsibilities. I'm doing this with you now. I have done several with the CBC, with the CTV, with the radios. They come to visit over there, so it takes quite a bit of time to prepare and to respond to all these questions. So, but Alhamdulillah, fi sabilillah, and they say, I feel that giving back to the community, you can't get more pleasure than that. In this country, we have been blessed so much, tremendously, in particular myself, in the higher echelon of the government, it's time to give back to the community. And that's what it comes out of my heart. Give back to the community. We have been blessed with so much. Can't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that we have every day. So challenges are there, of course. I wish I could buy a new, bigger facility. I don't have really bigger places where we could store things or bring in more volunteers. The maximum volunteer I could have per day is 15 to 18. I can't have more than that, but I need more than that. So, but if I bring them more than that, it will become overcrowding situation. I don't want that. So there are always, things like that, so challenges that we were facing. So, but Alhamdulillah, I think, we have done very well since the start, and it continues, Alhamdulillah, with the support of the community. We're here, very generous community.
Thank you. Should we
Yeah, that was
conclude here?
fantastic.
Manu,
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing everything. That was really insightful. I think you're one of our first Canadian interviewees, so it was nice to see how development projects work inside Canada and right in the capital. I mean, no one was expecting a huge food insecurity problem in Ottawa, but now we know that there's a huge issue in developed countries as well, as much as there might be in underdeveloped countries or developing countries. So thank you so much for sharing. We really respected this time, and yeah.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. Inshallah, we'll circulate it, send you the link. You can also share it
Thank
with
you.
yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah.
Thank you.
Jazakallah.
Take care.